Alicia, yeah. Joy Risings. Yo, did you go read that section of that book yesterday? After you read that little chapter, you have to read the next one, Ascension as well. Trina, hey girl, hey, Levon. She might be at work. That's why she ain't responded. Sorry. Oh wait, you're not working today. You coming on this side today, ain't you, Alicia? I forgot. All right, beautiful people. Okay, cool. Yeah, if y'all got time after y'all get done, swing by. Okay, y'all. Well, happy Thursday. Back to tomorrow. It's the Sabbath. It's the Sabbath. Like, you know what? Now that I started following, we started following the Sabbath as according to the moon quarters of how it should be being followed. When it falls on a Friday, it's like for a whole month, I get a 3-day weekend. I'm not technically off on Fridays, and I mean not Fridays. When the Sabbath falls on Fridays, I technically do work on Saturdays and Sundays during the tax season. Anyway, but still, nevertheless, I'm not working that many hours. But it seems like for a whole month, I get a 3-day weekend, right? So I just hop up doing and do my appointments, and then going back to chilling on the weekend with the rest of the family, right? So I really kind of enjoy it like that. I really do. And I don't know, it's extra rest days, although I do be working a little bit on the weekend. Okay, beautiful people. Let me pull this up over here. Anyway, happy Thursday. It is March the 4th, 2021, day 93 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 762, and that is without the Sabbath days and the feast day Sabbath days added in, where we are to rest. All right, y'all. Let's go ahead and do this shimmer and get started, y'all. Okay. All right, beautiful people. The shimmer is found in Deuteronomy chapter 3. I always do that. Like, I be looking at the chapter and still say verse 3. Chapter 6, starting at verse 3. But you really should read the entire chapter. You really should get the whole gist of everything as it's condensed in the whole chapter. But I'm not reading the whole chapter. Josiah, Belinda Brown, good morning. Shalom, family, shalom. Uncle Nathaniel, greetings. Hey, hey girl, hey, I ain't see you come in. Okay, Alicia, Trina, hey girl, hey, everybody. Tiffany, so okay, y'all. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, He is one God, And you shall love Yahuwah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children. And you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God, as he has commanded us. Uncle James Brown. Good morning. All right, y'all, remember when it says you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Remember, hand represents action, doing, but the frontlets between your eyes represents what's inside that big dome of yours, that brain, and your mind, your thoughts. Thoughts drive action. Whatever you think about, whatever you ponder upon, if you do it long enough, you will begin to carry those things out. So remember that. Your thoughts, your actions, line them up with what Yahuwah has said, that we may make our way prosperous before us. Uncle James Brown, Belinda Brown, I ain't gay, listen here. That book, y'all just came in, I asked Leisha, look, Leisha went and got a copy of the book. This last book that y'all told me about that I ordered, oh my gosh, like some of them and I started at the beginning, but I got so curious about some of the other chapters that I started hopping around and started reading some chapters ahead of time. I know I tell y'all start at the beginning, but some things that I had been searching that I seen it in, I was like, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna still be reading it, but I had to solve my curiosity right then and there. Oh my gosh, it brought some things to light for me. I'm like, wait, hold on a minute, wait a minute, and it makes sense, right? Oh man, we'll talk about that. I'm gonna have to call y'all because I want to finish reading through this one section. Okay. But I just wanted to let y'all know, so y'all know. Mom, shalom, shalom. Okay, y'all. Joshua chapter 10. It really does. It brings some other things to light for me. Even with some of the things that I'm learning as we're reading through the scriptures, I'm like, well, It makes me wonder about some things. We'll talk about that. All right, y'all. Starting at Joshua chapter 10. Nazitic, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had captured and completely destroyed Ai in killing its king, just as he had destroyed the town of Jericho and killed its king. He also learned that the Gibeonites had made peace with Israel and were now their allies. He and his people became very afraid when they heard all this, because Gibeon was a large town, as large as the royal cities and larger than Ai, and the Gibeonite men were strong warriors. So King Adonizedek of Jerusalem sent messengers to several other kings, Hoham of Hebron, Piram of Jarmuth, Japhiah of Lachish, and Deber of Eglon. Come and help me destroy Gibeon, he urged them, for they have made peace with Joshua and the people of Israel. So these 5 Amorite kings combined their armies for a united attack. They moved all their troops into place and attacked Gibeon. The men of Gibeon quickly sent messengers to Joshua at his camp in Gilgal. Oh, okay, I just lost my place real quick. Okay, I skipped down when I looked at the screen. Okay, the men of Gibeon quickly sent messengers to Joshua at his camp in Gilgal. Don't abandon your servants now, they pleaded. Come at once, save us, help us. For all the Amorite kings who live in the hill country have joined forces to attack us. So Joshua and his entire army, including his best warriors, left Gilgal and set out for Gibeon. Do not be afraid of them, Yahuwah said to Joshua, for I have given you victory over them. Not a single one of them will be able to stand up to you. Joshua traveled all night from Gilgal and took the Amorite armies by surprise. Yahuwah threw them into a panic, and the Israelites slaughtered great numbers of them at Gibeon. Then the Israelites chased the enemy along the road to Beth Horon, killing them along the way to Azekah and Makkedah. As the Amorites retreated down the road from Beth Horon, Yahuwah destroyed them with a terrible hailstorm from heaven that continued until they reached Azekah. The hail killed more of the enemy than the Israelites killed with the sword. So remember that. We see that in Israel, Yahuwah uses the elements. Even he said snow. There's a chamber with snow. He said snow is reserved for the time of war. And not just snow, but all the elements. When they come down here crazy and doing stuff, we might want to consider that war is being waged against a certain group of people. On the day Yahuwah gave the Israelites victory, over the Amorites, Joshua prayed to Yahuwah in front of all the people of Israel. He said, "Let the sun stand still over Gibeon and the moon over the valley of Ajalon." So the sun stood still and the moon stayed in place until the nation of Israel had defeated its enemies. Now, we read over this part in the Legends of the Jews about this, and it gave more detail on how the sun and the moon stood still, because everything in nature has a song, or it has a frequency. Even our bodies, everything sings a song, right? Or it's called frequency, if you understand anything about that, right? But he had to tell the sun and the moon to stop singing their song. When you stop singing your song, you stop moving, right? So that's what happened, just in a quick nutshell, summing it up real quick. So the sun stood still and the moon stayed in place until the nation of Israel had defeated its enemies. Is this event not recorded in the book of Jasher? The sun stayed in the middle of the sky and it did not set as on a normal day. There has never been a day like this one before or since, when Yahuwah answered such a prayer. Surely Yahuwah fought for Israel that day. Then Joshua and the Israelite army returned to their camp at Gilgal. During the battle, the 5 kings escaped and hid in a cave at Makkedah. When Joshua heard that they had been found, he issued this command: "Cover the opening of the cave with large rocks and place guards at the entrance to keep the kings inside. The rest of you continue chasing the enemy and cut them down from the rear. Don't give them a chance to get back to their towns, for Yahuwah your God has given you victory over them." So Joshua and the Israelite army continued the slaughter and completely crushed the enemy. They totally wiped out the 5 armies except for a tiny remnant that managed to reach their fortified towns. Then the Israelites returned safely to Joshua in the camp at Makkedah. After that, no one dared to speak even a word against Israel. Then Joshua said, "Remove the rocks covering the opening of the cave and bring the 5 kings to me." So they brought the 5 kings out of the cave: the king of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon. When they brought them out, Joshua told the commanders of his army, "Come and put your feet on the king's necks." And they did as they were told. "Don't ever be afraid or discouraged," Joshua told his men. "Be strong and courageous, for Yahuwah is going to do this to all of your enemies." Then Joshua killed each of the 5 kings and impaled them on 5 sharpened poles where they hung until evening. As the sun was going down, Joshua gave instructions for the bodies of the kings to be taken down from the poles and thrown into the cave where they had been hiding. Then they covered the opening of the cave with a pile of large rocks, which remains to this very day. That same day, Joshua captured and destroyed the towns of Makkedah. He killed everyone in it, including the king, leaving no survivors. He destroyed them all, and he killed the king of Makkedah as he had killed the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and the Israelites went to Libnah and attacked it. There too Yahuwah gave them the town and its king. He killed everyone in it, leaving no survivors. Then Joshua killed the king of Libnah as he had killed the king of Jericho. From Libnah, Joshua and the Israelites went to Lachish and attacked it. Here again, Yahuwah gave them Lachish. Joshua took it on the 2nd day and killed everyone in it, just as he had done at Libnah. During the attack on Lachish, King Horam of Ginzberg arrived with his army to help defend the town, but Joshua's men killed him and his army, leaving no survivors. Then Joshua and the Israelite army went to Eglon and attacked it. They captured it that day and killed everyone in it. He completely destroyed everyone, just as he had done at Lachish. From Eglon, Joshua and the Israelite army went up to Hebron and attacked it. They captured the town and killed everyone in it, including its king, leaving no survivors. They did the same thing to all of its surrounding villages, and just as he had done at Eglon, he completely destroyed the entire population. Then Joshua and the Israelites turned back and attacked Debir. He captured the town, its king, and all of its surrounding villages. He completely destroyed everyone in it, leaving no survivors. He did to Debir and its king just as what he had done to Hebron and to Libnah and its king. So Joshua conquered the whole region, the kings and people of the hill country, the Negev, the western foothills, and the mountain slopes. He completely destroyed everyone in the land, leaving no survivors, just as Yahuwah, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua slaughtered them from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and from the region around the town of Goshen up to Gibeon. Joshua conquered all these kings and their land in a single campaign, for Yahuwah, the God of Israel, was fighting for his people. Then Joshua and the Israelite army returned to their camp at Gilgal. All right, let's move on to 11. The book is called BlackRoots Science, and it really gives a really good detail about the ancient history of the black races and the other races and how they were actually created. I know y'all heard that all races come from black people, but in this particular chapter I was talking about, it talks about how that actually happened. I'm like, oh. So it's called BlackRoots. BlackRoots is one word, science, BlackRoots Science, and you can actually download the PDF on it. Some people may not be ready for it, some people are, but do with it as you may. Shalom, shalom, Joanne. So Uncle Nathaniel, that was the name of the book. And anybody else that was wondering, since I was talking to them about it. But yeah. And also in it, it has, and I shared this, I didn't share it up here, but I shared it with some family or whatever. And on Facebook, there's a fasting plan in there. It's called, the chapter is called 7 Years to Perfect Health. I think that's the title. Anyway, it's 7 years to perfect health, or 7 years to restore your health. In there, it tells you about a 7-year fasting plan and how to reset the body as it should be. And it takes 7 years to do it, to undo all that you have done ignorantly while growing and eating multiple times a day, breaking your body down. By following this 7-year fasting schedule, it gently restores the body without putting a lot of pressure on it. Because sometimes, you do 40-day fast, and I'm not saying stop doing those type of fasts, because they're helpful, definitely for spiritual, but also for health reasons too. But if you're not big on doing 40-day fasts or even 7-day fasts, that right there is a way to help you restore your body over the period of 7 years. It gives you the 7-year schedule, and it explains how it works. And the ancients, our ancient ancestors, this is what they did, and this is how you add years to your life. And by the time you get done with the fasting schedule, your normal way of eating will be once every 3 days. Now, some of y'all is like, what? How is that normal? It's normal. It's really normal. And I see, as I've been studying fasting and doing more fasting over the last 3 years, and I joined like this fasting group. It's called A Healthy Alternative. And I began to learn a lot. I'm like, well, shoot, maybe we really don't need this much food. Like, we are literally overrunning our bodies on a daily basis, and it's really not getting a chance to catch itself, to catch back up to its normal rhythm. The only people who should be eating that much are children, right? And so it goes in there and explains the process. And what happens is, during that time, our ancient ancestors, when they got to 21 years of age, they started this 7-year fasting cycle. So by the time they became 28 years old, this was their normal way of life, and they were only eating once every 3 days, right? And explain community and how they interacted. It was like what's her name we read about? Who? You talking about the old black lady, Trina? It might be, but it's really good, y'all. And what I'll do, I'll share the link here in the comment section on Facebook. I'll share the PDF version, and you can also get it from Amazon too. I downloaded the PDF, but I also went to Amazon to see if somebody actually printed it, and they did, so I ordered it. But on Amazon, you will find 2 versions. You will find the PDF version, and you will find Volume 2. And Volume 2 consists of a lot of interaction, conversations, and emails back and forth with questions that people ask about different things, and they literally put it in a book form. And it is so good. I've been reading both of them simultaneously, and Volume 2 is smaller than the first volume. Like, I'm literally like almost done with Volume 2. Like, I'm just I was like, see, I knew, but it's really good. It's for melanated people. I'm telling you that it's really, really good. I really appreciate Uncle Snooki and Aunt Gay telling me about Judah. Yeah, Tiffany, yes, Judith. Oh, man, see, well, yes, I forgot about Judith, right? Because Judith, very good. I'm so glad you said that. Katrina, yes, I think that's who you was talking about, Judith. Thank you, Tiffany, for putting Judith in there. Remember when we read in the Apocrypha, Judith had taken on this, yes, that's who you was talking about. Judith had taken on that lifestyle. That's what, when I was talking about, as I was reading through this book, now let me tell you, if you've just come out of the church, the cover on the book, I would call it a gatekeeper, because it would keep you away from picking up the book, right? Because on the front cover, if you buy the printed version from Amazon, there is a picture of a pharaoh on the front, right? So you get a glance at, Egyptian science, and it might throw you off. You know, I learned how to, look past some of that stuff. Let's go and let's see what's inside of it, just to see if it's good, or if this is a gatekeeper to keep people who don't need to be looking at it away from it, right? So I would like to call the cover of it a gatekeeper. It's not a gatekeeper to me, but I understand some people will not pick it up because they think it's going to get into all to Egyptian science and stuff like that. And it has the word science on it, right? So, but no, it's really talking about the history of the ancient black cultures, black roots. The roots, our history, the roots, where we come from and how we actually operate and how they lived so long, but it's a couple chapters dedicated to that. It gives you the explanation of the 7-year fasting schedule and what happens to the body, and how you should be doing it. And once you become 28 years old, that should be every 3 days. You will literally train your body. And even from doing shorter fasts, I know that to be true. The hunger thing goes away. You reset your body, right? Good morning, Rosina. But children should be the only one eating that many times a day, and it explains that. But they also explain that as children come out, if you understand the cycle of the body and how it operates, even children, they're still so close to the natural state of life that they won't overeat. Unless they've been in a house with parents who overeat and are constantly overeating, and they train that child to overeat, children will not overeat. They're going to eat till they're satisfied. And I know that to be true, because my children, it's like, because as I'm restoring my body and thinking about this stuff, I learned not to even put that much on their plates. Now, sometimes they'll eat because I'm hungry. They'll stuff their plates. And other times, like, no, I'm fine. I don't want any more. And sometimes we'll eat like Joshua. Joshua is really good. Sometimes Joshua, he's my 10-year-old, he said, I'm not hungry. And sometimes Joshua will just naturally skip meals, So I'm like, man, this stuff is true, because I'm paying attention and looking at it. I'm like, okay, I don't want to disrupt that pattern, so we can make sure, because they're young, we want to keep them on that natural pattern of life, to keeping their body as balanced as possible for as long as possible until it's a natural flow of that, right? So that's what that book has, and it explains it. They're not long chapters. I think they did a really good job in summing it up and keeping it short, and to get right to the meat of it. I'm like, man, If we had this when we were growing up, how much further along would we be? How many of our relatives would still be alive, right? Because most of the diseases people are dying from, it comes from what we put in our mouth and what we do ourselves to destroy our bodies. Like high blood pressure, all these things are not natural. And it even tells you, like we read, right? Some people even count the Bible as just good stories and principles or laws hidden behind the story, because we understand stuff if we put it in story form. Okay, however you believe it, okay. But nevertheless, the principle still stands true. These things are true. So if you can pull the laws, if you can see the laws and the principles behind everything we're reading and apply them to your life, you will increase not only your lifespan but your wisdom, and you just increase everything in your household, right? So that's what that is. And just real quick, children are the only ones that are on that like you can eat 3 times a day or whatever, but they need that because they're still growing. But once they reach 21 years of age, they start that 7-year fasting cycle, and it's really like fasting 1 day a week. So like you will see it when you go in there. You will fast 7 days, not fast 7 days. You will fast, and they use the cycle. They use Sunday, so the day you fast would always be on a Sunday unless you pick another day. They said it really doesn't matter which day, but they just use Sunday for the example for the schedule. And so you would fast for 12 hours on this Sunday, and they do it in the gentlest fashion. You can even use the hours that you sleep as a part of that 12-hour fasting, right? So you just wouldn't eat till after 12 o'clock that next day. And then 14 days later on that next Sunday, so it's not like every week, but it goes in a cycle using a pattern 1, 2, 3, and 7. But it explains all that. It's really good. I'm like, anybody can do this. But you can start it. They say anybody can, from 21 years of age, even all the way up to age 60, you can take that. And I would say, even if you're over 60, you can start it and still begin restoring your health. You may need to do some extra things like completely going plant-based. Stop eating the meat. I ain't saying you have to, but I'm just saying if you want to get the most out of your body and out of your life and your years, you would probably do well to do that while adding this to your fasting schedule. And then 28 days later on that next Sunday, you fast again, and it increases the hours that you fast until you're going from 12 hours fasting to 24 hours. It's like you're building yourself up. 24 hours fasting and 36 hours fasting, 72 hours fasting. It's a 60-hour fasting mark in there too. But you're doing that over the period of 7 years. And those bigger chunks, those longer spans of time where you're fasting, is after you get up in the years, right? So, but you will see that their lifespan, they live so much longer because they didn't run their bodies down with food. Remember, while we're over here, we constantly have stuff playing before our face. Ooh, entertainment is always fast food. Something is always open to satisfy the cravings of the flesh. That's what they constantly bombard us with, and we grew up in it. So now it's a normal thing to us, when it's not normal. It's against nature to be eating as much as we do, which is why we die as fast and young as we do, so fast and so young as we do. There are a lot of people in the grave that should still be living upon this earth today. There really are. Okay, so just real quick about that. All right, so yeah, no, Trina. Yeah, so we got to break some of these habits, y'all. Restore our life. Yeah, restore our life, even in these small things. So that's what that book is about. It's called BlackRoots Science. Don't let the cover throw you off if you're fresh out the church. But it's going into the history of the ancient black races and how they lived so long, and the schedules on how to restore the body. And this book has been up here, and it's been out here for a while, so. All right, so I'll put the link there, and I'll put the Amazon link if you want to purchase both volumes. You can go do it. Okay, let's get back to the reading, y'all, but I just want to answer some questions. Okay, Joshua chapter 11. Good morning, Kathy. Good morning. When King Jabin of Hazor heard what had happened, he sent messengers to the following kings: King Jobab of Madon, the king of Shimron, the king of Aksaph, all the kings of the northern hill country, the kings in the Jordan Valley south of Galilee, the kings in the Galilean foothills, the kings of Naphoth Dor on the west, the kings of Canaan, both east and west, the kings of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites in the hill country, and the Hivites in the towns on the slopes of Mount Hermon in the land of Mizpah. All these kings came out to fight. Their combined armies formed a vast horde, and with all their horses and chariots, they covered the landscape like the sand on the seashore. The kings joined forces and established their camp around the water near Merom to fight against Israel. Then Yahuwah said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid of them. By this time tomorrow, I will hand them all over to Israel as dead men. Then you must cripple their horses and burn their chariots." So Joshua and all his fighting men traveled to the water near Merom and attacked suddenly, and Yahuwah gave them victory over all their enemies. The Israelites chased them as far as Greater Sidon and Mizrepoth Maim, and eastward into the valley of Mizpah until not one enemy warrior was left alive. Then Joshua crippled the horses and burned all the chariots as Yahuwah had instructed. Joshua then turned back and captured Hazor and killed its king. Hazor had at one time been the capital of all these kingdoms. The Israelites completely destroyed every living thing in the city, leaving no survivors. Not a single person was spared. And then Joshua burnt the city. Joshua slaughtered all the other kings and their people, completely destroying them, just as Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, had commanded. But the Israelites did not burn any of the towns built on the mounds except Hazor, which Joshua burned. And the Israelites took all the plunder and livestock in the ravaged towns for themselves, but they killed all the people, leaving no survivors. As Yahuwah had commanded his servant Moses, so Moses commanded Joshua, and Joshua did as he was told, carefully obeying all the commands that Yahuwah had given to Moses. So Joshua conquered the entire region, the hill country, the entire Negev, the whole area around the town of Goshen and the western foothills, the Jordan Valley, the mountains of Israel, and the Galilean foothills. The Israelite territory now extended all the way from Mount Halak, which leads up to Seir in the south, as far north as Baal-Gad at the foot of Mount Hermon in the valley of Lebanon. Joshua killed all the kings of those territories, waging war for a long time to accomplish this. No one in this region made peace with the Israelites except the Hivites of Gibeon. All the others were defeated. For Yahuwah hardened their hearts and caused them to fight the Israelites. So they were completely destroyed without mercy, as Yahuwah had commanded Moses. During this period, Joshua destroyed all the descendants of Anak who lived in the hill country of Hebron, Debir, Anab, and the entire hill country of Judah and Israel. He killed them all and completely destroyed their towns. None of the descendants of Anak were left in all the land of Israel, though some still remained in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. So Joshua took control of the entire land, just as Yahuwah had instructed Moses. He gave it to the people of Israel as their special possession, dividing the land among the tribes. So the land finally had rest from war. All right, y'all, we'll read the last chapter for today, Joshua chapter 12. Oh, and Trina, I read your comment. You said here, I don't eat until afternoon every day now. It also mentions that because some people do that, and I had started the habit of doing that. It said if you're already doing that, not eating until after 12, where you're already getting like a whole 12 hours of fasting, if you choose to start this 7-year fasting cycle to restore your body, you can start off at 18 hours, fasting for 18 hours, because your body is already in the habit of fasting for 12 hours. So it's just going to bump you up to the next step. So you either going to start at 12 hours or you're going to start at 18 hours fasting. All right. Last chapter, Joshua chapter 12. These are the kings of the east of the Jordan who had been killed by the Israelites and whose land was taken. Their territory was from the Arnon Gorge to Mount Hermon and included in all the land east of the Jordan Valley. King Sihon of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, was defeated. His kingdom included Aror on the edge of the Arnon Gorge and extended from the middle of the Arnon Gorge to the Jabbok River, which serves as a border for the Ammonites. This territory included the southern half of the territory of Gilead. Sihon also controlled the Jordan Valley and regions to the east as far north as the Sea of Galilee to as far south as the Dead Sea, including the road to Beth Jeshimoth and southward to the slopes of Pisgah. King Og of Bashan, the last of the Rephites, lived at Ashtaroth and Idri. He ruled a territory stretching from Mount Hermon to Salak in the north and to all of Bashan in the east, and westward to the borders of the kingdoms of Gesher and Mekah. This territory included the northern half of Gilead as far as the boundary of King Sihon of Heshbon. Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, and the Israelites had destroyed the people of King Sihon and King Og, and Moses gave their possession as a land to the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh. The following is a list of the kings that Joshua and the Israelite armies defeated on the west side of the Jordan from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon to Mount Halak, which leads up to Seir. Joshua gave this land to the tribes of Israel as their possession, including the hill country, the western foothills, the Jordan Valley, the mountain slopes, the Judean wilderness, and the Negev. The people who lived in this region were the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. These are the kings Israel defeated: the king of Jericho, the king of Ai near Bethel, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, the king of Gezer, the king of Debir, the king of Geder, the king of Hormah, the king of Arad, the king of Libnah, the king of Adullam, the king of Makkedah, the king of Bethel, the king of Tappuah, the king of Hepher, the king of Aphek, the king of Lesharon, the king of Madon, the king of Hazor, the king of Shimron Miron, the king of Asaph, the king of Tanakh, the king of Megiddo, the king of Kadesh, the king of Jokneam in Carmel, the king of Dor in the town of Napoth Dor, the king of Goyim in Gilgal, the king of Tirzah. In all, 31 kings were defeated. All right, y'all. So that's the 3 chapters in Joshua today. Joshua 10, 11, and 12. So let's go ahead and hop over here to the legends of the Jews. Don't it? Mom mentioned, she said the 7-year fasting schedule sounds like the templates from which intermittent fasting was taken. And I'm almost absolutely sure of that. As I think about some intermittent fasting, yep, they probably did. They probably did. Late comment, the eating once every 3 days seems feasible to me right now because since I've been cleansing, I have not been hungry. I legit ate grapes yesterday and a handful of nuts. Yeah. There's also an intermittent fasting schedule. Matter of fact, it's the same schedule that Judith did, 5 and 2. Remember, because that's what I was mentioning earlier, but I didn't go back to it. Judith, after her husband had passed away, not saying that anybody got to die, but what happened was, after her husband had passed, she never got remarried. She solely dedicated herself to Yahuwah, and that was the schedule that she used. She used the 5 and 2 schedule. She fasted 5 days of the week, but she did not fast on the day of preparation or the Sabbath day. So every week for the rest of the time she lived, and also on the feast days, she didn't fast during the feast days that Yahuwah commanded. So she ate only 2 times, 2 days out the week, and it didn't say how many times a day. But if she was fasting like that, she probably didn't eat any more than once a day on those 2 days she ate, right? Because I'm now that I'm understanding more of this, as I'm reading through some of this, I'm like, clearly they had the knowledge of this. This was taken from them, or vice. I don't know, but I see the principles. As I'm thinking about it, I can see the underlying principles in some of the stories that we're reading. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay. So, but yeah, I found that to be true. He said a little asparagus. Yeah. So, but when you do start this fasting schedule, if you choose to, um, I wouldn't. Throughout the process of cleaning stuff out, your body gonna return to the normal state anyway. So you probably won't be eating a bunch of junk anyway, processed foods, junk foods. You can probably cut all that out anyway as you take your body through this process of doing this, right? Because you're just gonna restore everything, and you're gonna kick out all those bad cravings, them bad habits you picked up throughout the years, and it's gonna be replaced by what's natural, right? And how Yahuwah created it to be in order for our bodies to function at their best, right? So, I was about to say something else. It'll come back to me. But yeah, your body's just gonna restore itself. But yeah, I have found that while fasting, if you do it long enough, your taste buds reset themselves anyway. So the more often, I know what I was about to say. The more often you fast. Good morning, Mr. Murphy. The more often you fast, the more you will restore your body and restore the natural cravings that your body will crave. If you don't go back to putting some of that same junk in your body. I mean, because if you go back to doing the same stuff, there's no point in you fasting. Why are you even wasting your time? Just go ahead, be fat, marry, and die, right? But the book tells you, that's what I was going to say. The book tells you that if you choose to start this 7-year fasting schedule, it's going to take extreme strength of character to stick to it. And they said if you're not going to stick to it, they would recommend that you don't start it at all, right? So if you're going to do it, you need to be serious about doing it. You need to be serious about your health and stick to it, right? Because to stick to that, it's going to, and even if you're just doing smaller fasts, you're getting into it, you just got to kind of build yourself up to it. It takes extreme character to stick to it, especially when your whole house around you is eating. It's like, okay, so maybe you don't eat in front of your family, you stick to your schedule. But a couple times me starting out, okay, ain't nobody here gonna see me. I'm gonna go ahead and, how you fast going, babe? Oh, it's going good. I'm like, Father, forgive me, I'm a heathen. I done broke. No, not recently. I'm just talking about when I was starting off. He looking at me like, but seriously, I need to backslide on the Look, it does. It takes extreme strength of character to stick to it. And I just learned that over the last few years of building myself up, doing longer fasts and stuff. So you got to be serious about it. You got to get your mind right. You have to understand what food is and what food is not. What this body is and what this body is not. And how this body operates and how it flows through time, right? In this current place, in this generation where we're set. And the magnificence of this body and what this body can truly do, right? What it can do. We can't get into some stuff. Everybody not ready for all this because you read the book, y'all. It touches on some of that stuff. And you can see some of the principles being taught throughout the Bible, even in the legends of the Jews. Listen, so I just said that you need to have extreme strength of character. If you're going to do it, be serious about it. Not for the sake of being serious about it, but for the sake of the seriousness of your health and your life, So consider it, y'all. Consider it. Especially if you've been having issues, you will notice your body will begin to restore itself. For those who are having trouble starting off doing fasting, I found that it's easier. Say if you want to do a water fast or a coconut water fast or whatever, it's easier. The longest I've done is 2.25 days of dry fasting, nothing at all. No water, no nothing. I didn't put anything in my body. First day was a piece of cake. Second day, okay, started to feel my strength diminish a little bit towards the evening. Third day, I decided to break it with an apple. I could have pushed through, but I was like, this is my first time doing a dry fast. I don't want to go. I would not recommend doing that any more than 3 days, because your body's going to need water. But what I found is that if you start a fast, even if you're just doing a water fast, it's easier to get through the first day if you don't put anything in your body at all. Think about it when you get up. If you're not used to just throwing something in your mouth as soon as you open your eyes, you can pretty much go a lot of times throughout the day before you oh my gosh, I ain't ate nothing today. And you don't think about it. It's okay because you haven't broken your fasting state from when you've been sleeping. There's underlying principles behind these things. So if you understand the principles, you can take advantage of them and use them for your benefit to help you push you through the fast, because sometimes the first 3 days of any type of fast is the extreme hardest, right? You got to get past that first 3 days, depending on how you've been taking care of your body. Sometimes it's that 5th day mark, right? Oh, yeah, Trina. Sometimes, Trina says, it's especially hard when you have a spouse that refuses to hear you out in your belief and refuses to stop eating unhealthy foods. Yeah, it does make it a little bit harder, but it's everybody's choice. And sometimes if you don't have that support within your own household, you just have to find it without. Now, I'm not saying go breaking marriage vows or nothing like that. I'm simply talking about joining a fasting group or somebody else that's trying to do what you do. Because your spouse, you may find out that along the way, as you begin to restore your body and you begin these habits, and your spouse sees that you are serious and that you're actually sticking to this, and they see the changes in your life, they'll become curious. Well, let me try some of that vegan dish. Ain't that right, Mr. Murphy? Until one day, he shocks the whole family and say, I think I want to go plant-based. What? Even Jeremiah said, wait, what you do with my daddy? But it's a process for everybody, but somebody has to start it. Don't go ham on them because they still want to eat meat or whatever. Okay, it's cool. Everybody has to start somewhere. But if they're not there yet, then you be the light. Be the light that you want to see. Ain't that how they say it? Be the change that you want to see in the world. It starts with you. It starts with one person, right? So as you begin to do it, people begin to notice, sis, what you doing? Okay, and they'll get interested, So you ain't got to constantly tell people, anybody, even with the living a pure and holy righteous life, you ain't got to tell nobody that. You ain't got to go banging on people's doors and witnessing. You ain't got to do all that crap. I know some people like, oh, blasphemy. Call it what you want, but you ain't got to do that. All you got to do is take care of yourself. You only have control over yourself. And when you control yourself, the sphere of influence that is around you, that knows you, that trusts you, that looks at you, that watches you, you will begin to see change radiate from the inside out and begin to affect your sphere around you. Even if you never open your mouth to say anything to them, you, by the change in your own self, you will begin to draw them to you. You don't have to go after them. They will come to you. All right, so hop over here to Legends of the Jews. We stopped on page 362. It's volume 3, chapter 6. And that's the title, The Appointment of Joshua. Remember yesterday we read about the daughters of Zelophehad. All right, so let's go ahead and start here. The Appointment of Joshua. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought my book hit the button. I did that before, and it did something to my YouTube video. Okay. The Appointment of Joshua. When Moses heard Yahuwah's decision in the case of the daughters of Zelophehad, which turned out in their favor so that they inherited their father's property, he thought, this is a propitious time to urge a plea before Yahuwah. For if the daughters are to inherit their father's property, then must my sons inherit my office. He then began to pray to Yahuwah that his successors, who he hoped were also to be his descendants, might be worthy leaders of their people. He said, O my Lord, before whom come the spirits of all human beings, so that thou knowest the spirit of each whose spirit is proud, and whose spirit is meek, whose spirit is patient, and whose spirit is restive, mayest thou set over thy community a man who is gifted with strength, with wisdom, with beauty, and with decorum, so that his conduct may not give offense to the people. O Lord of the world, thou knowest each man's views, and knowest that each man has a view of his own. Hence, as I am about to depart from this world, I pray thee, appoint a leader over them that will know how to deal with each man according to his views. Moses, being a truly pious man, thought that when he saw his end approach, not of himself, but the welfare of the community, for whom he employed a good and worthy leader. Hence he furthermore said to Yahuwah, let not my successor share my fate. For although I accepted the guidelines of the people only after long hesitation, owing to thy urgings and requests, still I shall not be permitted to lead them into the promised land. Mayest thou then deal differently with my successors than thou hast dealt with me, and permit him not only to lead the people in the desert, but to take them unto the promised land. He, however, shall be a man which may go out before them, who, unlike the kings of the heathens that sent their legions to war, but themselves remain at home, shall himself lead Israel to war. But he also shall be a man which may come in before them, that it may be granted him to see the number of those returning from war, no less than those going into war. O Lord of the world, continued Moses, thou hast led Israel out of Egypt, not to punish them for their sins, but to forgive them. And thou hast not led them out of Egypt that they might be without leaders, but that they may indeed have leaders. I insist, therefore, that thou shouldest tell me whether or not thou wilt grant them a leader. This is one of the 5 occasions upon which Moses implored Yahuwah to give him an answer to his question. When he saw that his appearance before Pharaoh only occasioned him to bring greater and greater cruelty upon Israel, he said to Yahuwah, tell me if thou wilt now deliver them or not. He also demanded Yahuwah's answer to the question, shall I now fall into their hands or not? When at Rephidim, on the account of the dearth of water, he was threatened by the people. The 3rd occasion was when he prayed to Yahuwah for Miriam's recovery and said, tell me, wilt thou heal her or not? And lastly, when after long and fervent prayer, he asked Yahuwah whether he should be permitted to enter into the Holy Land, he said, let me know if I am to enter the Holy Land or not. Yahuwah fulfilled this wish of Moses, saying, thou hast now requested to be informed concerning thy immediate successor. I shall do more than this, and show thee all the judges and prophets that I will allow to arise for my children from now on to the resurrection of the dead, which also includes us, beautiful people. I'll read it again. Yahuwah fulfilled this wish of Moses, saying, thou hast now requested to be informed concerning thy immediate successor. I shall do more than this, and show thee all the judges and prophets that I will allow to arise for my children from now on until the resurrection of the dead. Then he showed Moses his successor Joshua, and his successor's successor, Othniel, and all the other judges and prophets. Then Yahuwah added to these words, of all these that I have shown thee, each will have his individual spirit and his individual knowledge, but such a man as thou now wishest for as thy successor, whose spirit is to embrace in itself the spirits of 60 myriads of Israel, so that he may speak to each one of them according to his understanding. Such a man as this will not arise until the end of time. This Messiah will be inspired with a spirit that in itself will embrace the spirits of all mankind. Now let's just pause for a minute so we can beat this dead horse just a little bit more. Look, the horse, look, listen. Right here, I'm going to read this again. Hold on. Then Yahuwah added these words, of all these that I have shown thee, each will have his individual spirit and his individual knowledge, but such a man as thou now wishest for thy successor, whose spirit is to embrace in itself the spirits of 60 myriads of Israel, so that he may speak to each one of them according to his understanding. Such a man as this will not arise until the end of time. The Messiah will be inspired with a spirit that in itself will embrace the spirits of all mankind. Now, remember, who is the Messiah and the deliverer over Israel. It's Yahuwah himself. But he raises up somebody in that current generation to be called the Messiah or the deliverer, i.e. we see Moses, right? Then we see Joshua. It's one. It goes through. We can see it all through the Bible. We can see each individual one, right? And then after them, here comes the judges. Then here comes the prophets. We can see it. We can clearly see it in every generation, from the beginning all the way to the end. But when we get to a certain point, there seems to be, because we clearly know we're scattered to the four corners of the earth, right? But there are certain distinctions about this particular Messiah in the time, in the end times to come, that's going to happen. Certain things must happen with this person who is raised in that generation, right? So let's just say we're that generation, right? It's not going to be somebody who lived over 2,000 years ago that's going to come back. That's not how life works. Let's just use some good common sense here, right? None of the people, not until the day of resurrection, right? But it's going to be somebody in our generation. So the Messiah who Yahuwah chooses in this generation to lead the current generation of Israel who is alive out of Egypt is going to be somebody from our generation. Do we know who that is? No, we don't know until they arise. We don't know. But the way it's being taught, people are looking for somebody else. And if we listen to Yahuwah, you ain't even got to have another Bible. I mean, you don't need to have any other books other than the Bible to see that pattern. And that's how Yahuwah operates, right? Each generation, Yahuwah will raise up somebody who has grown up in that generation with this people, right? With this people. And he will pour out his spirit upon that person and elevate them, so to speak, and carry out what he needs to be carried out for that generation, just like Moses and Joshua and Esther and Nehemiah. We can keep naming the list, right? So and it says right here, I'll read it again. It's one of the things, but also if you read through the Old Testament, it tells you about what would happen in those days. And we haven't seen those things happen. So no Messiah, first of all, we wouldn't still be in captivity. We still in captivity. Boom, that's your biggest thing right there. We still here reading the Torah, learning, restoring, returning to Yahuwah, understanding his words. We're still here. That means the Messiah has not come to take us back to the land Yahuwah promised us that we're here, be on the earth, right? I'm just saying, this is what scriptures say. When we don't read it, we misunderstand. When we get erroneous teachings and we can't line it up, we're not able to decipher truth from error, right? Okay. That's all I wanted to say for today, at least for right now. I'll go back and read again. Yahuwah fulfilled this wish of Moses, saying, "Thou hast now requested to be informed concerning thy immediate successor. I shall do more than this, and show thee all the judges and prophets that I will now allow to arise for my children from now on until the resurrection of the dead." Then he showed Moses his successor Joshua, his successor, Othniel, and all the judges and other prophets. Then Yahuwah added these words, "Of all these that I have shown thee, each will have his individual spirit and his individual knowledge. But such a man as thou now wishest for thy successor, whose spirit is to embrace in itself the spirits of 60 myriads of Israel, so that he may speak to each one of them according to his understanding, such a man as this will not arise until the end of time. The Messiah will be inspired with a spirit that in itself will embrace the spirits of all mankind," right? And something that this also says to me, because we're scattered to the four corners of the earth and all of our languages have been changed to whatever nation we have been scattered to, That means this person will also be able to speak multiple languages. And what it say, it will embrace the spirits of all the generations up until this day, and he will be able to speak to each one accordingly. He's going to be endowed with that type of wisdom, right? Okay, just think about some of the things that Yahuwah has said, and if we understand that, we will not be led astray. Check behind me. Check behind everybody, right? Because you're going to be held accountable. You either going to get it or you're going to miss it, but it's going to be your own fault. Either way, it's going to be your own reward. By now, concerning thy immediate successor, know then that he that watcheth the fig tree shall eat of its fruits. And what I just said is either you that's going to be rewarded or you that's going to go hungry. Look. But now concerning thy immediate successor, know then that he that watcheth the fig tree shall eat of its fruits, and he that waiteth upon his master will be promoted to honor. And thy sons shall not inherit the leadership, because they concerned themselves little with the Torah. Joshua shall be thy successor, who served thee with devotion and showed thee great veneration. For at the morn and eve he put up the benches in thy house of teaching, and spread the carpets over them. He served thee as far as he was able, and Israel shall know now that he will therefore receive his reward. Take then Joshua, a man as such did thou wish, as a successor, whom thou hast proven, and who knows how to deal with people of every tendency, and lay thy hand upon him. Give him an opportunity while thou art still alive, to speak in public and to pronounce the law, so that Israel may not after thy death contemptuously say of thy successor, as long as his teacher was alive, he dared not to pronounce judgment, and now he wishes to do so. Although Joshua, who is not of thy kin, is to be thy successor, I shall nevertheless be mindful of the law, that no inheritance shall remove from one tribe to another tribe. For the dignity of leadership is to be reserved for thy family. Joshua shall stand even before Eleazar the priest, thy brother's son, who shall ask counsel for him according to the judgment of the Urim. After Moses in kindly words had induced Joshua to accept the leadership after his death, pointing out to him the great rewards in the future world, pointing out to him the great rewards that in the future await the leaders of Israel, he took Joshua and set him before Eleazar the priest, before all the congregation, that all might thereafter acknowledge him as his successor. He then bade Joshua, who had been sitting on the floor like all the rest, rise and set himself upon a bench beside him. Joshua seated himself with the words, Blessed be Yahuwah that hath through Moses bestowed the Torah upon Israel. Moses honored Joshua furthermore by interrupting his discourse as soon as Joshua entered the house of teaching, and resuming it only when he has taken his seat. Moses also bade a herald proclaim throughout the camp, This man Joshua is worthy of being anointed by Yahuwah as his shepherd. Moses distinguished Joshua not because Yahuwah had ordered him to do so, but because he was sincerely glad to pass his dignity on to him, just as a father is glad to leave his possessions to his son. So too, whereas Yahuwah had bidden Moses to lay only one hand upon Joshua's head, and in this way put honor upon him, Moses fulfilled Yahuwah's commandment by laying both hands upon Joshua, and by this action bestowed upon him not only insight and understanding, but also a radiant countenance like that of Moses, from whose face issued rays like those of the sun. In giving all these qualities to Joshua, Moses lost nothing. Moses' wisdom was like a torch, whereas Joshua's may only be compared to a candle. And just as a torch loses none of its intensity if a candle is lighted therefrom, so little was Moses' wisdom diminished by the wisdom he gave to Joshua. The rays, too, that emanated from Joshua's countenance were weaker than those from Moses, and not until the crossing of the Jordan did they attain their full intensity, so that upon beholding them, the people feared him as they feared Moses. Joshua's appointment by Yahuwah as Moses' successor had been Moses' most cherished wish, but he had not ventured to give expression to it, for he was mindful of the punishment Yahuwah had sent over him when he had entreated him to send Aaron instead of himself to deliver Israel out of Egypt. And from that time, he feared to make any proposals whatsoever to Yahuwah. He was like the child who had once been burnt by a coal, and seeing a brightly sparkling jewel, took it to be a burning coal and dared not to touch it. Okay. We read the next section. We have 1 to 3. Okay. We're coming upon. Guys, we're getting to it. Probably this weekend we're going to start reading it. We're going to get into Moses' death. Not that I'm excited about that, but you will see how he kept going back and forth with Yahuwah because he really didn't want to go. He really wanted to go into the promised land. And it's just, I learned so much through reading through these stories and looking at our life today. And it's like, how can I apply this to my life today? Like, how is this relevant to me today? Like, I'm able to pull the principles. The more I read it, the more I'm able to see the principles, the underlying principles behind the stories, and apply them to today. And it's like, oh yeah, we're not going to make that mistake that Moses did. Moses, we love you, but we are to learn from our ancestors' mistakes. And, because we could go a lot further, a lot faster if we take the meat, spit out the bones, we take the good lessons, apply them to our life. See, we ain't got to repeat. We ain't got to reinvent that. We already know that didn't work for you, so we don't need to go that route. Like, you can literally build upon the successes of other people and move super fast. Like, there are going to be some mistakes that you make, no doubt. Because you can't grow if you don't. But the things that people have already done that are proven to be, this is how you do it. Like the building of the vehicle. Nobody has to go through all these things that Ford did and the other ones that built the vehicle. Now we simply take the keys, get it in, and go. We don't have to reinvent a vehicle every time we want to get somewhere. So we're building upon the successes of other people. We can just now take the keys and go. It's the same principle, right? Oh man, I wish y'all would get this. Last section, Moses' legacy to Joshua. After Moses had announced Joshua as his successor before all the congregation, he disclosed to him that the course of his own life was run, and that he would now depart to his fathers. At his inheritance, he gave to Joshua a book of prophecy, which Joshua was to anoint with cedar oil, and in an earthen vessel lay upon the spot that from creation of the world Yahuwah had created it for, so that his name might there be invoked. This book contained in brief outline the history of Israel from the entrance into the promised land to the establishment of Yahuwah's kingdom upon earth, when in wrath and indignation on account of his children, Yahuwah will rise from his throne of power and proceed from his holy dwelling. They ain't say nothing about a rapture, nobody. They ain't say nothing about that, did it? And clearly that's what we see all the time, all through the Old Testament. This is what is constantly repeated in the book that everybody has access to, right? This should be common knowledge to everyone, right? Okay. And if you don't understand this, what Yahuwah has said, you get led astray by the leaven that has been added to the loaf. I'm telling you. And it's in the same book. And like I said, it's called the Old Testament and the New Testament. But I think I don't really like those terms. But for the sake, so everybody know what we're talking about, the Old Testament and New Testament. Like I said, I mentioned before, there's a pastor that talk about it. He said, you know what? The New Testament should be called the New Test, to see if you paid attention to what Yahuwah said in the foundational book, right? Here's the test. You got the authority, you got the outline, the notes, the book, the study material, everything right here. And now here comes the test. You got the test in the New Testament. But people, let me keep reading. When Joshua heard the words of Moses as they were written, because people would want to crucify me. Like, I'm just telling y'all what it say. Have y'all not been studying? Shoot. I was there. But I realized we was doing it backwards. When Joshua heard the words of Moses, as they were written in his holy scriptures, he rent his garments and fell at Moses' feet, who himself in tears yet comforted him. Joshua said, "How canst thou comfort me concerning the bitter word thou hast spoken, which abound in sobs and tears, that thou art to depart from thy people? What place will receive thee? What monument will point to thy grave? Or who will dare to remove thy corpse from one place to another, as if it were an ordinary mortal's? All dying men receive a grave upon the earth according to their rank, but thy grave extends from sunrise to sunset, from south to north. All the world is thy tomb. Thou goest. Who not, O Master, shall care for this people? Who shall take pity upon them and be a guide upon their way? Who shall pray for them incessantly, that I may lead them into the land of their fathers? How shall I provide food for them according to their wish, or drink according to their desire? From the beginning they numbered 60 myriads, and now, thanks to thy prayers, they have greatly multiplied. Whence shall I draw insight and understanding to give them judgment and counsel? Even the kings of the Amorites, hearing that we desired to attack them, will say, let us not set out against them, for there is now no longer among them the many-sided, incomprehensible, and sacred spirit, worthy of Yahuwah, the ever-faithful master of the world, the divine prophet of all the world, the most consummate master of this age." Ooh, this is Moses they talking about, my G. Listen, Moses was so holy and his soul was so heavy that the angels couldn't lift him to bring him to Yah. Yahuwah himself had to come get him. They said this man his righteousness outweighs anything that we have ever tried to lift. And I'm just kind of summing it up. We cannot lift his spirit out of his body. Whew, what? Let me tell you something. When I read that, oh my gosh, listen. Look, that makes sense to me. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it makes sense to me. Because one day as I was walking, it felt like it was like, some of y'all may get this, but when I read this in here, it made immediate sense to me, because there were some days that when I walk, it feels like when I walk that I shake the ground. And I pause, because I understand it's supernatural thing who are trying to show me something, but me being ignorant, not really understand, I'm like, wait, what? It's like I see something real quick, and it seems like when I walk that I am so heavy, and I couldn't understand it until I read this. I'm like, oh shoot, maybe that's what that was, right? Not just saying I'm all, because I'm not, but there was something that Yahuwah had showed me, but I didn't understand it until just recently, when the angel had said the righteousness of his soul is so heavy that we cannot lift him and bring him to you. Like, you have to go get him. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go get him. It blows my mind, y'all. Like, it's crazy. Listen. Hold on, let's go back. Even the kings of the Amorites, hearing that we desire to attack them, will say, let us not set out against them, for there is now no longer among them the many-sided, incomprehensible, and sacred spirit, worthy of Yahuwah, the ever-faithful master of the world, the divine prophet of all the world, the most consummate master of this age. If now our enemies once more transgress before Yahuwah, they will have no defender to offer up prayers for them before Yahuwah, as Moses had done. The great messenger who at all hours of the day kneeled down and prayed, lifting his eyes upon him who rules the world, and constantly reminding him of his covenant with the patriarchs, and appeasing him with invocation. For thus will the Amorites speak, saying, he is no longer among them. Arise then, and let us wipe them from the face of the earth. But what then, O my Lord Moses, will become of this people? When Joshua had spoken these words, he cast himself once more at Moses' feet. Moses seized his hands, raised him to a seat before them, and answered him, saying, Do not underestimate thyself, O Joshua, but be light of heart, and pay heed to my words. All the nations that dwell in the universe hath Yahuwah created, and us also. Them and us did he foresee from the beginning of the creation of the universe, even unto the end of the world, and he overlooked nothing, even down to the smallest. But he at the same time foresaw and foredoomed everything. All that was to happen in this universe, Yahuwah did foresee and foredoom, and lo, it cometh to pass. He appointed me for them and for their sins, that I might make prayer and exhortation. Not for my fitness or my strength was I chosen, but only through the grace of his mercy and his long suffering. For I assure thee, Joshua, not on account of the excellence of this people will thou destroy the heathens. All the fastnesses of heaven and the foundations of the universe were created and approved by Yahuwah, that are beneath the ring of his right hand. Those, therefore, that maintain and fulfill Yahuwah's commandments thrive and prosper. But those who sin and neglect the commandments will now receive the promised possessions, will be punished by the heathens with many plagues. But he that should wholly destroy or abandon them is impossible, for Yahuwah will step forth, who foresaw everything, even to eternity, and whose covenant is firmly founded in accordance with the oath which he swore to the patriarchs. Then the hands of the angel will be filled, and he will be appointed chief, and he will forthwith avenge them of their enemies. All right, beautiful people. That is our reading for today. Tomorrow we'll pick it up with Moses' last campaign. We get so close. No, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's the Sabbath. We won't be here Saturday when we come back. But y'all can go ahead and read ahead if y'all got it. Even if y'all don't have the hardback. Every day I post the link where you can go read it online, or you can listen to the recorded YouTube videos. And I like those because if you go to the description and drop it down, it has time markers for each chapter and each subsection, and you can just jump right to it instead of listening to it from the beginning. You can jump right to it. So that's why I use those particular links. So read ahead, listen ahead, or you can just wait in suspense. All right, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today. We read Joshua 10, 11, and 12, and we started over here on page 366, and we stopped on page 365. Which we will pick back up Saturday when we come back. Wait, what did I say? I said it all backwards. Oh, I wrote it wrong. Hold on. I wrote it wrong. Not 3. I'm sorry. We started on page 362. And we ended on page 365. I'm sorry. It's like, how you start where you finished? Okay. Legends of the Jews, we start on page 362, the section of appointment of Joshua, and we stopped on page 365. All right, y'all. So it is Thursday, March the 4th, 2021, day 93 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 762. That is without the Sabbath days and the feast day Sabbath days added in. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and hop over here and do the blessing. Remember, I will post the book and the PDF if y'all want to read through it. I have not read through all of it, so I have not vetted all the information. But what I've read so far, and I have seen that there are chapters in there that are talking about some things from the New Testament, Old Testament. I haven't gotten to those yet. I went straight to the health stuff, right? So I just want to say that I haven't gotten through that. So I just wanted to say that. Okay. But for those of you that want it based on the information, the health stuff, and the history of black people and the melanated bodies and how they live so long and the process, and even how they lived in community, that was a really good chapter. How we lived in community. And God, hold on, look. it's a part in it. Man, some of y'all not ready. Look, some of y'all not ready for some of this stuff. If you get it, but I know it to be true because I've experienced it. That's why I'm careful. Excuse me. I'm careful about some of the stuff that I share, simply because of how some stuff has been inappropriately taught. But we clearly know that there is something more to it. But people have they haven't taught it in the right way. But nevertheless, it is true, and it is a part of our physical and spiritual makeup, right? But it also goes into, and I'll sum it up this way. It goes into how, as you begin to cleanse your body, and anybody who's ever fasted understands that when you clean your body out, it seems that you become more spiritually in tune, right? You can hear the voice of Yahuwah clearer, and some people even begin to see into the spiritual realm. It goes into some of this stuff. Now I understand that every nation upon the earth understands this, right? I didn't understand this a couple years ago. Every nation upon the earth understands this. But each nation, for the most part, from the vernacular that I've seen being used, they're talking about the same exact thing, but they're using it, they're labeling things with different terms, which some nations take to be scary, and we don't. I want to make sure I'm saying this the right way. They use terms that other people think are scary terms, and like you getting into something that you shouldn't be. But if you pay attention to what's being said, and if you understand it yourself, and if you just understand the human physical makeup and the spiritual makeup of things, if you just have like a little small understanding, you'll understand, oh, are you talking about our spirit, right? Oh, or our soul or whatever, but they use different terms, but they're talking about the same thing. And I find it that people who have the most trouble with understanding this is people who have been indoctrinated in the church. They don't see that they're talking about the same thing you're talking about. You're just using church terms to describe it. And because a lot of time when we grew up in the church, it's like we're in this bubble. It's like we're right, and we don't want to listen to nobody else, and they don't have the truth on anything, and anything else is of the devil. I want to tell you this: that is false. It's false. And depending on how churchified you are, depend on how much you can understand. So if you step away from things and just kind of look at it, lay it out there for you. I want to make sure I'm saying this in the right way, because I don't want to, because there are different people that's up here and different people watching, and I don't want to scare them away with something where they don't have a full understanding. A lot of people, they back away from stuff that they don't understand. It's scary. Oop, nope, we don't go there yet. I understand it. I was completely there. It took a whole lot of time for me to kind of get that out and quit being scared of the boogeyman. But when I realized, oh, these are natural principles that Yahuwah has set in the earth. Clear. We all experience this. We all have this. Here's a good one, and I'm gonna leave it alone. Okay, so the church talks about seeing in the spirit, right? But you have another group of people saying they're talking about like the third eye, right? But they're talking about the same thing. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some people who tap into the spiritual realm illegally, and they are met with the force of the fallen angels. Let's not get that twisted, because that will happen. You can have demonic attack or the fallen angels, somebody attack if you access that realm the wrong way, and it's there. That's more real than this physical world that we can see. If anybody had any kind of spiritual experience or something happened to you where you know that there's something otherworldly going on here, you will understand that. They're just using different terms to convey a truth that's there, right? So you have those things, but what the book, it talks about some things that as you begin to fast, you become more aware of your surroundings, you become more in tune, you can hear the voice of Yahuwah clear, and not only that, but you can also look at other people And you can begin, and this uses the word, you can see the auras around them, right? Or if you're coming from church, you can see their spirits. You will allow you to see what's going on with it. You're literally being able to see the energy that flows around them and through them. That's what it's talking about. It's just different terms, but it's the same thing, same principle. But it talks about that, and I know that to be true. And the more you cleanse your body, some people say you becoming more spiritual. Okay, I can go with that. Yeah, you're becoming more spiritual, or you're becoming more in tune, and you're restoring your body to the state where it should have always been. And some people, when they restore their bodies to the state that it should have been, you'll begin to understand things about elements of this earth and around us, and how elements can sometimes be bit a little bit, but it's a natural thing. In other places you may hear the word alchemy, but it's all the same thing. But I think that book, just bringing the point back to that book, if you go and you start reading some of that stuff, understand what's being said, right? Even if you have medical understanding, if you work in the medical field, a lot of this stuff will make sense to you when it gets to that. My sister is in the medical field, so I hear a lot of stuff, and I was like, oh, that makes sense, so I understand. So when I come upon these things, and plus I studied some natural stuff, holistic medicine, so it makes sense. But people who don't have, they may not be as well learned in some of these things, and it may be like, oh, from improper teaching that they may have gotten from where they've grown up, they fail to see the natural underlying principles, and all of these things is just natural. And some people label what they don't understand magic, and it's not magic at all. It's really not. It's living natural principles and laws that Yahuwah has set in place and with the earth, right? You begin to understand it, and you can see it clearer. So I just wanted to say that about the book for those of you who gonna get it, okay? So don't go out here and be like, Pam, what is this? I'm trying to explain some of this stuff to y'all. But if you're not in the habit of studying and looking at some of this stuff, you won't understand it. And we don't really have to worry about you anyway, because you're not going to read the book. You're going to put it away, so, and which means it's not for you, so, but just wanted to say that. Okay. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the blessing, which is found in Numbers chapter 6. Starting at verses 22 all the way to the end of the chapter, verse 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazirite vow. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. Uncle Nathaniel, cleanliness is next to godliness. Yeah. I would say that's a true statement. In some cases, because some people can look clean, yet they can be filthy and ungodly on the inside. So I say they can go two ways, but I get what you're saying. But all right, y'all, we out of here. We gotta go. I don't think there are any more questions. I think I kind of answered them all along the way. Oh, Tylane. Yes, this is my month. All right. Oh, Dane, I saw your comment. I've been feeling like that. We was talking about the fasting. I've been feeling like that. I don't even want to eat some days. I'm not hungry, but make myself eat. Yeah, if you're not, don't make yourself eat, because you're disrupting the natural flow of your body. And your body is trying to heal itself. It's trying to get rid of toxins. And some things only happen every 3 days in our body. And we have to be able to give our bodies that time to restore itself from the foods and the toxins that were in some of the foods that we've eaten over the last couple days. Okay. So very true. My kids don't want to eat either, so I shouldn't make them. Oh, yeah, I wouldn't. Like, yeah, I grew up eat everything on your plate, Dana. So I shouldn't make them eat each meal. I wouldn't. I don't make my children eat. Like, even if I spent time slaving, I used to, but I dare not do that now. If they're not hungry, they're not hungry. I notice when they're hungry, they'll say, Mom, I'm hungry. Then, but the food already cooked, okay, I'll make them a plate. Or if it's something that's already prepared, they can go get themselves, they'll go get. Yeah, I wouldn't dare do that anymore, because I know now that it's not good to eat all the time. It's good, especially if, like, sometimes they may go a full day and not eat. It may cause concern. Us, you ain't ate nothing today, because the way we've been programmed, oh my gosh, you're gonna die if you don't eat. Right? And so it's like, eat everything on your plate, and sometimes growing up in poverty, you have poverty mindset or whatever. Oh, you better eat it because we don't know when the next meal comes, and stuff like. It's all those things we have to be healed of mentally, and we have to get back on a natural flow of life, how Yahuwah created it to be. Yes, I would not dare make my children eat when I think they should be. You hear what I'm saying? Use some wisdom, right? Like, if they're sick or something, my children rarely ever get sick. But fasting, even then, fasting is still the best thing for that. Just drink some water. Yeah, like Lisa said, just some water. As long as you have water, your body can go long just on water alone, and it will heal itself. It will replenish itself. Like, you just have to get the right information from the right educated people, and not worldly educated, but I'm like, people who actually, they're not just book smart, but they're book and experience smart, right? Okay. Okay, guys, I'll address these. Okay, love you too, Trina. All right, y'all. And nothing really over here on YouTube. Just what to say with my kids. Yep. Alicia, yeah. Hey, girl, hey. Okay. All right, y'all, that's it. We out here. I'll see y'all Saturday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.